Hey everybody, what's going on? Chris Fitzpatrick here on Chris Fitzpatrick Speaks. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. And today's topic, I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart. I'm not exactly bashful about my love of sports and of my Green Bay Packers in the National Football League. I've been a Packer fan since the mid-1990s. I got my first cheesehead hat from a homeroom teacher sophomore year of high school. So the Packers and I have had an almost 30-year love affair. And I was hooked pretty early on. I know as a kid growing up in northern New Jersey, the obvious choices would have been either the Giants or the Jets. But there was just something about the Packers that lured me in. It was that combination of history and tradition in one hand, and on the other hand, cheese, and I just couldn't resist that 1-2 combo. So I've been a Packer fan for quite some time, today is Saturday, January 6th of 2024, and tomorrow the Packers are going to take on the Chicago Bears for a chance to make the playoffs. And it got me thinking a little bit about my fanship. And I started thinking a little bit about Vince Lombardi, the legendary coach for the Green Bay Packers. He coached from 1959 until 1967, won 5 world championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls as coach of the Packers. But his legacy goes beyond just being a football coach. He's considered one of the great leaders and motivational minds of the last 100 years. And there are a lot of leadership lessons that we can take from Vince Lombardi. So as I prepare as a fan for tomorrow's big Green Bay Packer game, it got me thinking about leadership lessons from Vince Lombardi. If you like this video or any of the other content here on Chris Fitzpatrick Speaks, please do me a favor, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so that way you know when new content comes out. And by all means, please, to help me grow the channel, share it. Share the content, comment, and tag folks in the comments if you want to. Definitely tag your favorite Green Bay Packer fan. And let's keep the conversation going, because I create this content to provide some value, and the more people it reaches, the better. So I've got 6 leadership lessons from the great Vince Lombardi, and let's get right to them. So leadership lesson number 1 is the importance of discipline and hard work. It should come as no surprise that this was going to be on the list. This was Vince Lombardi. He was a maven when it came to the importance of self-discipline and the importance of putting work in. I'm going to share a lot of my favorite Vince Lombardi quotes that I think encapsulate and really capture some of these discussion points. But one of my favorite quotes from Vince Lombardi that I think really captures this is, the difference between a successful person and others, it's not a lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but a lack of will. The idea behind this is that your attitude is often a self-fulfilling prophecy. I've heard it said before, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're probably right. So the mentality of wanting to win and wanting to go on to do something great, I think is very important. And that is where discipline comes from. So being able to bring your whole self, your best self to everything you do, not just professionally, but personally, and not just as a leader, but just as an individual. This isn't just a matter of bringing your best self when you're playing a sport or when you're going to work. It's also the level of discipline and hard work you put into your family, you put into your relationships, you put into a marriage, you put into any sort of partnership, anything that you do. If it's worth doing, it's worth putting your best effort forward. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have bad days. We all have them. And the question is not so much, are you giving the 100% of yourself compared to what your highest level, what your potential is? No, what's your 100% on that particular day? And how can you strive to continue to be better and to give more effort? And that's what Vince Lombardi did with his Packers teams, is he got the most out of them on any day that they were working with them and working for him, whether it was a practice or a game. And that's one of the things that I strive to do. And that's one of the leadership lessons I take from Vince Lombardi, is the importance of that hard work, that work ethic, and that self-discipline. All right, so leadership lesson number 2 from Vince Lombardi: leaders lead by example. Lead by example, it's a little cliche because we've heard it for so long, but it endures. It is not sunken into that morass that is the business platitude. But no, lead by example, it really is very critical. Vince Lombardi preached leadership by example, the idea that you can't ask your teammates to do something that you wouldn't be willing to do yourself in that same position or with that same skill set. Great leaders set the right example early. If you want your team to operate with trust and integrity, then as a leader, your trust and integrity has to be beyond reproach. That is leadership by example, showing the way. As a matter of fact, in one of my favorite books, The Leadership Challenge by Posner and Kouzes, they talk about model the way. Well, that's leadership by example. So set the example that you want your team to follow, and you don't have to be in a leadership position to do that. You can lead others by setting a good example, regardless of what your title, your position, or your level of perceived power is. Sometimes just setting the right example and setting the tone is the best way to lead by example and to lead other people. All right, so number 3, teamwork rules. Vince Lombardi was a consummate teamwork motivator. He really focused on not just the individual, but on the contribution to the unit. A teamwork motivator means that, yes, individuals, they all have to do their jobs. And you can motivate an individual. And different components of a team, the different members of a team, they can often be motivated in different ways. The same thing doesn't motivate everybody. So Vince was very good at focusing on what could motivate an individual with the idea that everybody would be pulling in the same direction as a team. And that as a unit, when everybody gave their best effort to the team and focused on the victory of the team as opposed to individual accolades, then the whole would be greater than the sum of the parts. If you just have a bunch of individuals out for themselves and you don't have a team, well, that's not going to be very successful. Sports history is littered with stories of teams with incredible overflowing talent that didn't get it done as a unit because maybe they were all out for themselves or they just didn't know how to come together. And then those same sports stories are filled with examples of teams where they just played so well as a unit that even without necessarily having the most individual stars, they were champions and they got the job done. I definitely think about the 1980 United States Olympic hockey team when I think about an organization, a sports organization that's done that, defeating the superstars from the Soviet Union and then going on to beat Finland for the gold medal. That was a team that committed to the idea that they were playing for something greater than themselves as individuals. So teamwork is really critical. And as a matter of fact, a great Vince Lombardi quote on teamwork right here: individual commitment to a group effort. That is what makes a team work, makes a company work, a society work, a civilization work. Individual contributions to the whole, that is what allows us to function. Number 4 is the power of communication. Great leaders are great communicators. I have not seen too many exceptions to that rule. The most effective leaders I've ever had in my life have been the ones who communicated the best. Vince Lombardi was a consummate communicator with his team, and it doesn't mean that he was just constantly yelling or barking or speaking. It also was how he spoke, how he motivated others, and also how he listened and how he expected others to listen. He believed in the importance of communication within the team. Clear communication, the tasks, what needs to get done, the goals, the vision. Vince Lombardi was great at communicating that so everyone knew what was expected of them, the standard that they had to hold themselves to, so that the way they could come together as a team and as a unit and succeed. So for you out there, if you are in a leadership role, if you want to be in a leadership role, or if you just want to set an example and lead others, one of the best ways you can do this is to focus on how you communicate with your team or how you communicate with those around you personally and professionally, how you communicate verbally, non-verbally, how you communicate in writing, and how you communicate by listening. Number 5, the commitment to excellence. This really encapsulates what Vince Lombardi was all about. The quote that's often attributed to him, and in some cases I think is over-attributed to him, is the idea of winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. That was not a Vince Lombardi original. That was said by another coach. Vince did say that, but it's not an original quote of his. And it wasn't even one of his favorites necessarily. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite Vince Lombardi quotes that's in that same arena but is a little bit different and I think a little bit deeper is, winning isn't everything, but wanting to win is. And it was about the will to succeed and to really go after greatness. That was what would separate somebody from somebody else, was that will to win and that desire to win. Now, it isn't enough just to say, I want to win. Right? Any example, whether it's in sports, whether it's in the professional world or the personal world, could be the simplest thing. But anytime you're going into a competition of some sort, generally speaking, everybody there wants to win. 2 football teams meet on the field. They all want to win. Nobody goes in there to lose. So it's not enough just to say, I want to win. But then it becomes a question of what's the level of effort that is being put in. What is the commitment to excellence? And the truth is, commitment to excellence, that's done in practice. That's done in the trenches. A lot of that is done when nobody's watching. It's the commitment to the little things, to those great habits. As a matter of fact, Vince Lombardi talks about this. And try this Vince Lombardi quote on for size. It's a long one, but it's absolutely one of my favorites. Winning is not a sometime thing. It's an all-the-time thing. You don't win once in a while. You don't do things right once in a while. You do them right all the time. Winning is a habit. And I love the idea of the winning attitude being a habit. And it's those little things that you do, often that don't get the accolades or the fanfare, that are going to set you up to win. As a matter of fact, there's a book I'm reading right now. I just picked this one up. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and really into his work right now. As a matter of fact, I started watching his masterclass on habits, how to build good habits, how to break bad ones. And it's a fantastic, very simple idea, but it's actionable. And I highly recommend this book and James Clear's work to anybody who wants to work on how to make changes to some of the small, subtle habits that can help do what Vince Lombardi talked about, make winning a habit. And number 6, the last one I want to talk about today, is the importance of integrity. Integrity was something that Vince Lombardi preached at all times, not just on the field, but off the field. He wanted everyone to be the best version of themselves, not just in the effort that they put in their preparation, but also how they were as people, how they were as human beings. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite Vince Lombardi stories is that when he was the coach of the Packers in the wake of segregation and Jim Crow laws, he made it very clear to the businesses in and around Green Bay, Wisconsin, that all of his players were to be treated the same, with the same level of respect. If his black players and his white players were treated differently, he would ban the team from patronizing that particular establishment. He made it clear that everybody was to be treated with the same respect. Vince Lombardi believed that the only thing that should be a determining factor of somebody's level of excellence was the effort that they put in and the skill that they developed through their hard work, through their attitude. And that was something that he really preached and embodied, not just on his team, not just to his players, but also to the community that he was a part of. And that is exemplifying integrity. There's a lot of great Vince Lombardi stories about how he would focus on integrity and how he would preach but also practice integrity. I'll add a few more into the comments section. But this is a great part of being a leader, is making sure that your trust and that your integrity and that your character is always at a high level. You're only going to succeed as a leader as far as your team trusts you. And once you lose your team's trust, then your leadership relationship just erodes, it falls apart. So maintaining a high level of integrity, that's the foundation, that's the bedrock of leadership. And Vince Lombardi knew this. So I challenge everybody out there, if you are in a leadership role or not, if you want to lead others or not, again, maybe you just want to set the right example. One of the first places you start is your integrity and your character. And a lot of your integrity and your character is things that you do when nobody's watching. So there we go, everybody. 6 leadership lessons from the great Vince Lombardi, longtime coach of the Green Bay Packers. There's a very good reason why the championship trophy that's handed out at the end of the Super Bowl is called the Lombardi Trophy. It embodies championship excellence, and these are some of the lessons that we can all learn. You don't have to be in a National Football League or a professional sports organization or in the largest organization in the world to learn from the leadership lessons of somebody like a Vince Lombardi. He was an incredibly motivating figure, in part because his lessons were applicable to anybody. So I hope you took some really interesting lessons from this talk today. Please, once again, subscribe, hit the bell, share the content. And thank you so much for spending some time with me. Remember, when you're out there, you're not striving to be perfect. These lessons are here to help you get better. Just remember, as Vince Lombardi once said, perfection is not attainable. But if we chase perfection, we can attain excellence. This is Chris Fitzpatrick on Chris Fitzpatrick Speaks. Thank you again for spending time with me. And, of course, go Pack Go. See you soon.